kill the giants was to drown them. The flood was not only sent to destroy corrupt mankind, but also to exterminate the giants that inhabited the earth at that time. Genesis 6:4 mentions there were giants on the earth in those days when the sons of God were joined to the daughters of men and begot children to them. These giants, known as the Nephilim, were the result of a forbidden mixture between fallen angels and humans. They were powerful and violent beings whose existence symbolized the extreme corruption that had spread throughout the world. The flood lasted 40 days and 40 nights because it was to wipe out not only sinful humans, but also these giant creatures whose strength and endurance required prolonged divine action. God's judgment was not immediate, since it was not only to destroy physically, but also to deeply purify the earth of all wickedness, including that of these powerful beings. Thus, the flood was the only way to completely eliminate that corruption. What do you think really happened to the Nephilim after the flood? Share your thoughts below.
Was it really the only way to get rid of the giants? This God who imagined the entire universe, his only way of getting rid of the giants and wickedness on the earth was to drown everybody and drown everything in a flood? This is truly just a reshaping of an Anunnaki story, and I'll get to that towards the end. But was this really the only way? This God could not have just poofed everything out of existence. He could not have just took wickedness out of man, give man another shot without evil already being in the world. I mean, prior to the flood, he said that every thought of man is wicked from his heart. And he also said the exact same thing after the flood, that I will not kill man again because every thought from man from his youth is wickedness. So was he really trying to get rid of all the wickedness in the world? Because evidently it didn't work, did it? No. Why? Because immediately after, there was wickedness again, between Noah getting drunk and butt-ass naked, to him cursing Ham's child Cain, and making him a slave to all his other brethren, yet Cain never became a slave, nor did his descendants. And no, Black people didn't come from Cain. It did not happen. We do not come from the Cushites or the Mizraim. The Egyptians were never slaves of the other people. So therefore, it does not work. It's a lie. It becomes a false prophecy, right? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Now, let's get to the nitty-gritty of all this whole story once again. The giants were supposedly killed in this Bible because they had come down and had sex with the daughters of men. You have a little blurbage that happens in Genesis where it says the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they came down and they had sex with them, and then they started having babies with them. And these men became the great men of renown. Now, how is that wickedness when they become the great men of renown? Now, you don't have much else in your Bible that tells you that these giants went and did anything wicked, that the Nephilim did anything wrong other than being born. So where do you get this idea of the Nephilim being wicked? You get this from a book that is not part of your canonization in 99% of the Bibles. Unless your Bible contains the writings of Enoch, which are about three to five different books, then you do not have any stories concerning the wickedness of these Nephilim. You do not have the story of the Nephilim beginning to consume humans because they had eaten all of the other animals and plants on the planet. So you don't have that in your Bible. You are just assuming it or taking it out of the book of Enoch, yet it is not part of your Bible. Don't you think it should be part of it if you're going to utilize the fact or the idea of the doctrine that the giants were wicked, that the Nephilim were wicked? You do not have the idea of the Nephilim teaching the angels teaching the human women about makeup, about reading the stars, about ironworks, about any of those things. You do not get them unless you are accepting the book of Enoch there again. And some may try to extrapolate that Cain's descendants must have been the Nephilim because they were the ones who first started doing metalworks and the ones who first started building cities and things of that nature and cultivating animal and plant husbandry. But your Bible doesn't say that any of those things were wicked. Now, does it? No, you just make the assumption because they are the descendants of Cain, and Cain killed Abel, which is the only sin that Cain ever committed to which your God gave him protection after he did it. So therefore, that cannot be it. Why? You get it from the books of Enoch that there was a problem. And then you have to ask the question, Noah showed that there was still wickedness on the planet, but also giants still existed because you had Nimrod, you had Og, and you had Goliath, the most famous giant. How do you have giants still in the world if they were supposedly wiped out? Now, people will say that there was a second incursion, but there's nowhere in your Bible that suggests that. The Anunnaki story says that, but nowhere in your Bible does it say it. People will also say that the daughters of Shem, Ham, and Japheth had the Nephilim blood within them, and so therefore giants were allowed. Why would your God allow for them to marry women who still carried the Nephilim blood if he was trying to get rid of the Nephilim? That makes absolutely no sense. But since your Bible doesn't make much sense, then that would then make sense. Two wrongs making a right. But those are just doctrines that people decided that they were going to add to their very vile understanding of this book. So where do they continuously get it from? The book of Enoch, but they also get it from, and the books of Enoch, they get it from the Anunnaki story. You see, in the Anunnaki story, while Marduk and Enlil had issues against one another because Marduk was the son of Enki, and Marduk felt it was his time to rule the earth. But Enlil was not ready to give up his rule over the earth. So Marduk decided, well, I'm going to marry me a human. An Anunnaki marrying a human. A son of God, a son of Anu, marrying a human. Then, while doing so, 200 angels, or Ijigi, those being a lower caste of Anunnaki, came down to the mountain to which Marduk's wedding was happening, and they then swooped up 200 women and married them. When the council, the Anunnaki council, forbade it and said, no, this is wrong, they said, hey, you let Marduk do it, so you're going to have to let us do it. And so they allowed it. So therefore, you had the sons of God, the B'nai Elohim, marrying the daughters of men through the Gigi, marrying these women and then teaching them about makeup and sorcery and metal works and being able to divine through the stars and all these other sorts of things. And they saw it as wrong. But you also have Enki coming down and having sex with Lamech's wife and then producing, guess who? Noah, who had a shining face and was speaking from birth and was albino, but with laser-like eyes that lit up the entire room. This is an Anunnaki story that was written in the book of Enoch. So you have the Anunnaki story that they have mixed in with your Noah story, therefore giving you your Nephilim or your demigods. Now, according to the Anunnaki story, the reason why there were still giants after the flood, because there is a flood in the Anunnaki story as well, the reason why there were giants is simply because the beings that had a good amount of Anunnaki blood were allowed to survive, i.e. Noah was one of them as well. That means his children were half or a quarter Anunnaki. But also, in your Enoch story, it says that the giant king Og was tied to the top mast of the ark and therefore was able to survive as well and then built his kingdom. They just make up doctrines to try to fit into their story, pulling from Anunnaki, pulling from the books of Enoch, but never giving the credit to those books and just extrapolating their own doctrines. But most Christians will never dig that deep. But once you dig deeper, you start to realize why you should not be a Christian, because this book, the Bible, is filled with falsehood and misteachings, and it's just the culture of a people, and that's it. So what do you guys think? And always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.